Welcome to the Iferia TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Joe Candido, a sales expert and author with over 30 years of experience transforming how businesses drive revenue. He is the architect of the leadership selling framework and author of the book by the same name. He challenges the status quo by arguing that traditional sales is dead and that the key to modern growth is shifting from product pitching to becoming a trusted advisor who sells business outcomes to senior leaders. In this episode, we'll explore the systematic approach to building trust, credibility, and long-term customer relationship. So, Joe, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Yes, thank you.
All right. So let's dive in. Joe, with over 30 years in the field, so you declare that traditional selling is dead. So what was the pivotal moment or series of failures you witnessed that made you realize the old playbook was fundamentally broken?
What I mean by dead. The dead part is pitching, really trying to get your customer to buy from you because that's your job and that's your goal without having a good understanding of the customer. If you're cold calling and you don't know who your customer is, what industry they're in, you don't know anything about them, and you just simply start pitching, it doesn't work. That's a classic approach that a lot of sales leaders think is smart because they have their team making these calls and they're making 50 calls a day or 75 calls a day, but they're not getting any results. And customers and prospects are not interested in talking to somebody that knows nothing about them. And that's what's dead, is that approach. The product pitch and the dialing for dollars. The epiphany for me was early on in my career. I was selling computer systems, and my customers didn't understand the value of the computer systems. They were like, well, what can it do for me? How can it help me? And I realized that understanding my product was not enough. I needed to understand their business and show them the connection between my product and their business. So I had to ask them, well, what do you do today? Tell me about your business. What are your challenges? What are your process? And I would explore with them their business. And what I discovered is that took some time, that I couldn't just ask 3 or 4 questions, get the answers, and make a sale. It just didn't work like that. And it never has, and it never will. And so I would spend time getting to know my customers and understanding their business. And what happened is they started to trust me because I had invested that time and they got to know me. And I was able to make good recommendations because I actually understood their business. And I was able to show them how my product could enhance their business, achieve their goals, mitigate risk, do the things that was important to them. And that was a big game changer. That actually happened a long time ago in my career. And as I became a consultant and started helping other companies improve their sales, I realized they were all doing the same thing. They were just pitching and, they were not understanding the customer's needs, and they hadn't done any research, and they weren't well prepared to have a business conversation. And that was their problem. They were not doing those things. And so that's traditional selling, and it is dead. I will tell you, I do not believe it works. I've never seen it work. And each year our customers and our buyers get smarter and they expect more. They expect their salesperson to be helpful, to actually help them in their business.
All right. So, Joe, can you tell us about what you call the leadership selling framework? Framework.
Yeah. So leadership selling is really my approach to sales that I've built over 30 years in my career as both a salesperson and a sales leader. And then after that, as a sales consultant and trainer. And leadership selling is based on the concept that I just shared that, traditional pitching doesn't work, that you have to understand your customer's business. And so there's four basic elements to it, or four stages, I would say. The first stage is the engage stage, and that's where we build a relationship. And it's important to establish trust and credibility in relationship before you ever talk to the customer about a solution. Because if they don't know you and trust you, they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to want to work with you. So you're just wasting your time pitching. Get to know the customer. And the way I recommend you do that is by giving them something that's helpful to them. Don't ask for something. Don't ask for a meeting. Don't ask about their business and have them educate you. That's you asking for things. Okay. Instead, give them something. Give them an article. Give them some thought leadership. Share some information about their competitors, about their industry, about their business that's helpful to them, which means you have to know something about their industry. You've got to do some research. But it's not hard, especially with tools like AI today, to do some research and understand their business and provide some insights is step one of building a relationship. I call this give to get. So that's the first step, is build the relationship before you start selling. If you do that, they will give you permission to ask questions about their business. Okay. And at that point, you can do a proper discovery, and you want to understand, where are you today and where do you want to be? And what's the gap in between? What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What's preventing you from achieving those goals? You need to understand their business. And during this stage, you will learn a lot. No pitching, no selling. You're learning, you're asking questions, you're learning about their business, what's working, what's not working. Okay. Now, in those first two stages, the engage and the explore, you've built a lot of credibility and you've built a good foundation for doing business. They trust you now. They've
Mm.
gotten to know you. They've invested time. They've explained their business to you. And oh, by the way, when they explain their business to you and they tell you about the gap between the current state and the desired state, if you can close that gap, there's a really good chance that they'll buy from you. And you can give them a return on investment value proposition, because you can say to them, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, and I can get you there. All right. So
Yeah.
now when you go into the resolve stage, the third stage, you're able to make recommendations.
Mm.
And this is where you might start selling. But even here, your selling is collaborative. You're making suggestions, you're making recommendations, you're telling the customer how you can solve their problems and what tools you're going to use, what products and services. So now together, you're building that solution and you're testing the ideas out with them, and you're getting validation, what they like, what they don't like, what they want changed. So it's very collaborative, and it's a process of solving a problem together. And when you've done that, they're ready to buy,
Mm.
because now you've addressed their problem and they trust you. Yes, there may be some negotiation, but not in the way that we're used to, because they want to work with you and they want the solution. So now they may say to you, well, Joe, it's a little out of budget, or I want to make this change, or we've got to adjust the delivery, or tell me more about, your experience in this area. But it's really coming to create a final solution that works for them. And oh, by the way, a lot of times salespeople say to me, everything was going great. And then I submitted the proposal and the client ghosted me. They stopped returning my phone calls and they didn't answer my emails. And my response is, well, that's because you rushed to the proposal before building a relationship.
Mm.
And they don't feel connected to you. And they're not answering you because they got what they needed, which was a proposal, and they're probably price shopping it now with your competitors. Okay. And your
Yeah.
proposal probably isn't very exciting to them. How could it be? You don't understand their business. You gave them a generic proposal. You gave them the same proposal you'd give anybody else. And so they don't understand it. It doesn't excite them. It doesn't address their business challenges. And they don't have a relationship with you. Of course, they're not calling you back. Why would they? Right. But when you do the things that we teach in leadership selling, they stay connected to you. They want to work with you. And then the last stage of leadership selling is support. And this happens after the sale is made. After the sale is made, you have to deliver on the promise. first off, you want that customer to be happy because it's your integrity. It's what you said was going to happen, and you want to make sure that they have a good experience. You want them to achieve their goals. Now, when that happens, they're thrilled. So the other reason why you want to support them is you want repeat business. And a happy customer will do business with you again. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you want referrals. And a happy customer provides referrals. So the fourth stage is after the sale, and it's very, very important because it's how we ensure that we deliver on the promise, we ensure the customer's satisfied, and that leads to repeat business and referrals. So it's a simple process, but it's very different than the normal selling approach.
All right, that was a really insightful response, dear Joe. So you introduce a powerful concept, give to get. Earning the right to sell by first offering meaningful insight. So what does that give look like in practice for, say, a technical founder trying to reach a busy CTO?
Sure. So a good example of that would be, and I'll give you a real world example. I'm working with a client right now that provides AI solutions. And, they want to provide those solutions to businesses that want to streamline their process and improve their efficiency. Okay. So what we did together is we created a series of reports and articles that we researched on the internet, and we used AI to help us. And we sent that information to the COO of the organization. And we said, we're sending this information to you because we've researched your company and we know a lot about your industry. And we think this information will be helpful to you and, doing your job and achieving your goals. And we did that. We sent 5 different articles and white papers to them over about a 2-week period, one every few days. And we would follow up and say, check your email. There's a really good article that I know you're going to love. This is not a sales pitch, but this is a great article for you. And we did that a series of times. And then we said, let's talk about this. Let's set up a call where we can answer your questions on these articles and tell you some of the best practices that we're seeing today around process streamlining and operational streamlining and how AI can be a tool to assist in that area. And we got an appointment. And so when we got the appointment, we said, before we met with the client, we said, give us your top 3 or 4 challenges and the most important things you want us to talk about when we come in. And we're not going to make a sales pitch. We're just going to provide information, educational information. And she said to us, can I invite anybody else to the meeting? And we said, yes, of course. And so she invited 2 people to the meeting, and we had the meeting, and we shared this information, and we talked about it, and they had a chance to ask questions. And at the end of the meeting, we said, well, it seems like you were interested in these 2 topics most. Is that correct? And they said, yes. And we said, would you like more information on this? And they said, yeah, actually, we would love it, but we don't understand, why are you doing this for free? You're educating us. What's in it for you? And we said, oh, well, that's a great question. We do this as part of our give back to the community approach. So we like to give to the community important information. And we're hoping that when we do that, you might want to do business with us. But that's your decision.
Yeah.
Because you need to get to know us first. And you have to decide if you're comfortable with us. And if you are, then yeah, we would love to talk to you about doing business together. And so she said, okay, that makes sense. So we did a second meeting. And at the end of the second meeting, she said, I think we need a third meeting because I'm interested in doing business with you. And then we said, okay, but the next step is we've got to learn more about your company. We can make no recommendations yet. We have to learn about your company. So the process works very naturally. If you provide information, you help them understand that information. If you do some research in their industry, their business, and you share those insights, most of the time they're going to find that really helpful. And a good portion of the time, they're going to want to have another conversation with you about what you might be able to do for them.
All right. All right. So I'd like to know, how does a technical professional who is used to speaking about specs systematically begin to reframe their pitch to speak to a leader's agenda for change?
Well, there's a couple of things, and I say this very sincerely. I recommend reading my book for starters. It'll give you the whole philosophy and a lot of the tools and the techniques that are proven that we've been doing for over 30 years with thousands of salespeople and organizations. So start with the book Leadership Selling. That'll really give you a great foundation. And one of the things that I say in leadership selling that's so important is any salesperson can do this, yes, but it should be a decision from the leadership of the company that this is our strategy and how we're going to sell. Because if I'm an individual salesperson and I'm selling one way and the organization wants me to sell another way, there's a conflict. And that's not great. So what we really want to do is we want to get the individual and the organization aligned so that everybody's selling the same way. And so leadership selling starts with the leadership of the sales organization deciding what is our strategy? How do we go to market? How do we differentiate? How do we win? How are we going to approach our clients? And I'm offering a way to do that. And they need to decide whether that makes sense for them or not. And then I would recommend you get your whole organization operating this way. That's when you get great results, not just one person doing something that's kind of rogue and different, but get the whole organization operating strategically in the same direction. That's the way to do it.
All right. So, Joe, for the many brilliant but introverted technical experts listening, so what is the first most manageable step they can take to start building the trust and credibility required for leadership selling?
Well, one of the things I would say is that technical folks are often the best salespeople because they can answer questions. They're not pushy. They really want the customer to understand. They're often good at educating. So quite often they do a great job in terms of supporting sales. And what I would say is be customer centric and be business outcome focused. It's not about you, it's not about your company, and it's not about your product. It's understanding the customer and what they're trying to accomplish. And if you start there, you'll be able to show them the value of your solution. But you have to start with them first. So start with the customer first. I always say, customer first, second, and third. That should be our priority.
All right. So in a market saturated with similar AI or SaaS tools, so how does a company truly differentiate itself? If not through its features.
You don't differentiate with product features. Everybody's got a competitor. The iPhone's got a competitor. The coffee cup that you're drinking from has a competitor. Everybody's got a product that's just like yours. And if you think your product's different, you're dreaming. Okay. It might be a tiny bit different, but the customer doesn't care. It's not enough different that it's going to make the sale for you. Salespeople need to make the sale, not the product. Okay. So the way you differentiate is with trust, credibility, and relationship. Here's an amazing statistic. What we found is that the quicker a salesperson submits a proposal, the lower the chances of winning. The longer they take to submit a proposal, the higher the chances of winning. Now, this is really interesting because salespeople want to get a proposal to the customer fast, because they think, hey, I get a proposal, then I win a proposal. But guess what? The longer you take building a relationship before you submit the proposal, the better the chances of winning. Right? So the way to be successful is to get to know the customer, to take your time and understand them. That's your differentiator because the customer is going to say, I believe that Joe can help me. I believe Joe understands my business. I believe Joe's solution will work. I believe when there's a problem, and there's always a problem, Joe's got the integrity and the commitment to fix the problem. I trust Joe. I'm going to do business with Joe because I could buy this product somewhere else, but I can't buy Joe somewhere else.
All right. Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay, so Joe, if you look at the future of B2B sales, so what is an emerging skill or mindset that you believe will become non-negotiable for success in the next, say, 5 to 7 years?
Well, 5 to 7 years from now is an eternity. But what I think is that even with AI, technology elevates the importance of people, right? And I think that relationships still matter and will always matter. And one of the things that we focus on in leadership selling is be a leader and sell to leaders. So be a leader means you have to operate like a leader. You have to understand your customer, understand their business. You have to operate with integrity. You have to do what's best for them, customer-centric business outcome, right? Be a leader. Sell to leaders means go call on the executive, go call on the C-suite, go call on the people that are paid to change the business. Okay. A lot of times we call on managers and we call on procurement. Those people aren't paid to change the business and they don't care about value and quality. All they care about is price, right? If you talk to the leaders, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, the CTO, if you talk to those people, they are paid to change the business and they want to make sure that they're doing the best things for the company. Okay. I'll tell you a quick story. I was doing a keynote a few years ago for a large pharmaceutical company, and there was over 1,000 people in the room. And the person that was speaking before me was a newly hired CIO of the company. So he was brand new CIO. And he said to the sales team, hey, there's 1,000 salespeople in this room. And he said to the sales team, he said, for 16 years, I was your customer and you sold to me and your competitors sold to me. And now I work for you. So I'm going to tell you what it was like when you sold to me, what I thought of you and your competitors from a sales perspective. And the first thing he said was, I didn't care about price as much as you thought. The big danger for me wasn't that I paid a little extra for higher quality. It's that I didn't pay enough and something went wrong and then I would get fired. He said, so I was more concerned about buying the cheap solution and having it not work because that's way more expensive and way more harmful to the business. He said, I didn't mind paying extra. He said, I never bought the lowest bid. In my 16 years, I never bought the lowest bid. I always paid extra because I needed the quality and I needed to protect myself against the risk of a problem. Now, it didn't mean he overpaid. It didn't mean he paid like 100% more, but he understood the importance of having a company that he could trust that was going to give him the quality that he needed. And, when you sell to leaders, they think that way. When you sell to procurement, they think about cost. When you sell to someone in an IT department or someone who's a technical buyer, all they think about are the technical aspects. They don't think about the other aspects. Okay. When you sell to a business leader, they think about everything and how it's going to achieve their goals. So be a leader, sell to leaders. I think in 5 to 7 years, that will still be one of the strongest, most powerful pieces of wisdom from a sales perspective that you'll have.
So for this one is for the students and early career professionals in our audience. So for those people, that are in the early stages of their career in a technical field. So what is one habit that they can build now that will set them up to be a leader who sells rather than just, a technical expert who pitches?
When I think about the ideal salesperson, I think about various competencies that they possess. Okay. One of them is business acumen. You have to understand business. Okay. You have to understand, basic things about how a company works. What are the roles in the organization? What are they focused on? What matters to them, right? So you have to have basic business acumen. And I'll give you an example. Every business is concerned about growth. They're concerned about risk. They're concerned about operational efficiencies. They're concerned about innovation. They're concerned about customer satisfaction. They're concerned about employee engagement. Every business is. And there's a lot of other things, right? So understand business. You can't sell to business if you don't understand business. So for a young person, I would say figure that out. Go take some courses, do some reading, but strengthen your business acumen. Listening skills are super important. Salespeople don't like to listen, but that's the most important job, right? We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. Listen more, okay? Be an active listener. That's really important. Solve your customers' problems. Be customer-centric. Another important competency. Be a problem solver. Be innovative. Be creative. Time management. Super important for salespeople. Salespeople are so busy. If they don't manage their time carefully, they will not be successful. Did you know that the average salesperson spends less than 35% of their week selling? They spend less than 35% of the week selling. That's terrible. They need to spend more time selling. They have to manage their time and prioritize their activities. So those are some good, some good recommendations for anybody in sales, especially a young person.
All right. So, Joe, in your work, systematically deconstructing and rebuilding the entire philosophy of sales around leadership and trust. So I'd like to know, what does the word innovation truly mean to you?
For me, innovation means creativity, doing something, building something, delivering something that's unusual. I think about 2 things, unique and compelling. Innovation says that I'm doing something unique. Not everybody's doing it, or the way I do it is unique. And compelling means that it has real value to the customer. It's special. It doesn't have to be a technological invention. It could be. But sometimes innovation is, the way we deliver a service or what our terms and agreements are. Sometimes innovation is things like, hey, we're going to do a health check with you every single month. And we've got a scorecard so that you can measure us and give us feedback to make sure that we're always meeting expectations. That's innovation. So unique and compelling. If I understand my customer and what matters to them, and I can bring them something that's unique and compelling, that's innovation.
All right. All right. Fantastic response.
One comment to innovation, because it's a big topic in my mind. I think Steve Jobs was one of the most innovative people that, we've seen in the last 50 years. But, he didn't invent much, but he innovated. He took ideas and he brought them to the market. Everybody says, oh, he stole the graphical user interface from Xerox. That's not true. He bought it from them. He saw it. They developed it. They developed it at Palo Alto Research Center in California. And he saw it and he said, hey, this is really great. I'd like to buy it from you. And he bought it for $1 million. But you know what? They owned it for years and they did nothing with it. It did not make a penny for Xerox. He bought it and then he turned it into a product. So innovation isn't just inventing, it's actually bringing something to the market that's unique and compelling to the market. And Steve Jobs was a genius at that.
Okay, fantastic. So, for our listeners, especially the founders and technical leaders who are ready to move beyond pitching and start advising. So, what is the best first step they should take to grab your book, Leadership Selling, and connect with you through your website?
Yeah, so you can connect with me. By the way, you can send me an email or even give me a phone call. I'm reachable. I like to, especially young salespeople. I love chatting with them and sharing resources with them. So if you can go to my website joecandido.com, JoeCandido.com, and from there there's other resources. My book is there. My consulting services are there. I've got actually 4 websites that are all connected through joecandido.com. So I would say start there. My email address is there, my phone number, reach out to me. And, be a student, right? It's fun to be curious. It makes life a lot more interesting. We should never stop learning and never stop being curious. And so I think the most important thing somebody could do today in terms of wanting to be better at sales is decide. I want to learn. I'm going to try new things. I'm going to read. I'm going to do podcasts. I'm going to give Joe Candido a call maybe, or somebody else. Like, just just be curious and be motivated, and that will serve you very well in life.
All right. Joe, it's been a really insightful conversation with you, and I am excited to have you on the show today, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the questions and the opportunity to be here. I hope I shared some information that's helpful to people. I hope I challenged their thinking a little bit, to give them something new and fresh to think about. Even if you don't agree with me, maybe I spark a new idea with you. And I'm always happy to have people reach out. That's a lot of fun for me.